Boom, we are live with my good buddy who's loving me right now, Mr. Mark Shem. Mark, thank you so much for joining us, for hanging out on this Friday. It's a ghost town everywhere with the holidays. But I want to introduce you guys to Mark. Feel free to chime in with any questions as well. I'll let you know a little bit about Mark. So we're in downtown San Jose. Thank you again, Mark,
My
for
pleasure.
joining me. He's the man. Very, very cool guy. So, Mark, let's go first. First, I want to update you on Mark a little bit, and then talk more about giving you guys value. First off, Mark, where'd you go to college, my man? Aggie.
I'm an Aggie, UC Davis.
Nice. Did you grow up here, or
I'm from the peninsula, actually.
where exactly? What area of Peninsula? San Mateo?
San Mateo, Foster City.
Oh, nice. I went to Notre Dame, Dana-Mer my freshman year. You kind of where Belmont, Carlmont. It's a small little castle
Oh, yeah.
of a school. Okay, you are aware of it. Very cool, very cool. And then, what made you go on and choose UC Davis? You chose political science and history, which are actually my two favorite topics. I didn't know where to go from there. Was that what kind of got you into? Okay, everything I read is about lawyers.
Well, when you were growing up in the peninsula way back when, most Asians went to the math science. I didn't care for math or science.
Hey, we're Asian technically. Oh yes, I get it.
So
the stigma, right? That we're all good at math. And
so I decided I enjoyed history and poli-sci, and so that's what I majored in. Because the best advice I ever got was major in something that you do well in, because it shows that you can think.
Right. No. Well said. That was the only subject I ever got an A in. I never connected the dots on where that would go. Right. Or oftentimes our Asian parents have it figured out for us.
Well, they want you to be an engineer, or want you to be a doctor.
If you're not a doctor or a llawyer, you're a failure, right?
Exactly.
Did you get that? Be honest. There's a little transparent here in your house. So you're Chinese, Mr. Shem. I'm Indian. We're all Asian. Same thing. Was that the total normal thing? First generation?
Well, I'm not first generation. I'm second generation.
Okay.
But there's still back then.
Doesn't go away.
Doesn't go away.
So did your parents want to? Obviously there's a gap between, because there's probably some kids out there who are trying to really figure themselves out. You go right into Davis and I'm going to go into law school.
No, I started econ.
Okay.
But I did not care for that. So
Right.
That's why I went into poli-sci and then history.
You realize there was so many numbers involved in econ.
Yeah.
And you're like, screw this. But you enjoyed writing at the same time?
It's something that you learn how to get better at. And not everyone's born a great writer. There are very few people who do that. But
Right.
You learn by practice. You learn by experience.
Right. And doing things that are your strength, things you like. Hey, Omar, thank you for joining us. Omar's chief of staff of Vice Mayor. Very cool guy. Thank you for joining us. This stuck out to me, Mr. Shem. Mr. Shem is a firm believer in effective use of written discovery to narrow the issues and achieve early settlement. Now, we're going to get into a lot of stuff, but I really like that. Did you elaborate? What do you mean by that? I mean, to really zone in on the effective use of written discovery to narrow the issues and achieve early settlement.
Well, sometimes when you get a client, you learn their views, and sometimes that's not always with what the facts suggest.
Mm-hmm.
Using discovery like interrogatories, request for admissions, and request for production, you can try to focus the other side to realize their strengths or weaknesses of their case. And with requests for admissions, they come with a penalty if you fail to answer them properly. So you could get attorney's fees at the end. So you're really kind of, you've got a complaint or a big jumbled mess of issues. And discovery forces you to get rid of issues that are not supported by the facts. And so you can narrow it.
Right. And then the goal really should be for them is early settlement. And for those who don't know about early settlement, you mean getting the other side to agree early, avoid wasting money by both sides.
Well, yes, we're expensive and litigation is expensive. So you're better off settling most cases.
Right. And still achieving your goals, whatever those may be, hopefully, right? Or avoiding anything.
Or avoiding litigation.
Awesome. And not to backtrack, but after the Aggie lifestyle, so many Aggies and sisters in Aggie, I know they're going to be watching this. Then you go to Temple. What is it with the East Coast and all these law schools? They got cousins with the Rutgers. Philly's kind of is it a hotbread? I mean, what
Well,
That's
it
relative.
was
It could be anywhere. Right?
it was an opportunity to go back east and kind of experience it. It's different. I
Right.
can't really put a really definition on why it's different, but we have to do things in the West Coast that are not quite the same on the East Coast, and it was just an opportunity to experience.
And you're tired of smelling the cows in Davis. That too.
Well, that's bad for my allergies.
Oh my God, what is it? I swear to with us Asians, my only kryptonite is pollen. And whenever I go to Davis or go to Tracy, you say visiting my sister, it is what's just the wind that blows up the pollen there, right? Were you just miserable like I was during the allergy season?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, it's nuts.
Before Claritin.
And okay, so we go to Temple, awesome experience. We're done at Temple, and then it's the real world, right? Well, tell me about the bar. Obviously, you had to pass the bar after, and Mr. Shem eventually becomes far more involved with the bar association. So tell me a little bit of that. I know we got some people who were at the same point finishing up law school that follow me. You took the bar exam back home, and what happens next?
How get a job.
Work? Yeah. And when you go get a job, how was that experience for you? Did you have any sights set anywhere in the Bay Area? What made you eventually settle to San Jose?
Well, that's where the first job opened up.
Okay.
And that's where I ended up staying.
Okay.
But it's always difficult. Especially now, the economy's tight.
Mm-hmm.
Not as many lawyers are retiring, so there's a lot of new ones coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But it was either Henry Clay or Daniel Webster who said the profession can always use another good lawyer.
Mm-hmm. And just out of curiosity, was this a mutual friend or a personal colleague that ended up getting you the first interview, or was it flat out you just selling yourself?
No, actually, it was a friend.
I knew it.
It's not what you know; it's who you know.
Yep, exactly, absolutely. I say that a lot. And for anybody who's struggling out there to get a job, you can sit there, click all day. You know, I had a friend the other day call me, but I realized whether you like it or not, nothing is going to happen until you know somebody on the inside. It's a harsh reality, or you go out there and you meet people physically, right? Nobody wants to do that, I feel, these days. The kids are really struggling with that, so I feel that that's so important, right?
A lot of jobs are not the ones that are out on Craigslist or whatever they put them on.
Right. But let's get into the nitty gritty. Right before we do, for any of the users who are interested, or you have any kids that are interested, let's talk about the mock trial experience. I went to San Francisco, kind of a Stanford summer program for one of my nieces, and thought it was very cool. The kids getting a mock trial, essentially, for those of you guys don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Shem, is essentially, it's kind of like a fake trial put on, but they're studying leading up to it, two sides against each other, and then the final, essentially, is them presenting their cases against each other. Was that kind of a somewhat of a summary?
You're given a fact pattern, you're given case law, you're given law, and you're told to put together a case for and against. So it requires analytical skills, oral communication skills, obviously writing skills, and the ability to think on your feet, because you have to use the rules of evidence. If you watch the courtroom dramas, you see all those attorneys popping up objection. They have to do that.
Right. And I think at a young age, it's such a cool experience for even situations like this. It's like fight or flight. You freeze up, right? Or you don't. And I saw some kids do that, but I think that's not a bad thing to get that out of your system, right? At such a young age and be on that platform. I'm sure some of the kids struggle with that. He's coaches Lynbrook High Schools, right? Team. Awesome.
But what more importantly, it's forcing you to think outside the normal box that you're raised in the classroom. Definitely oral communication skills. Even if you don't become a lawyer, I had one student who literally became a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
And enjoys making presentations, and many of the colleagues former student encounters don't know how to make presentations. They get all nervous. You've seen it.
Right. No, yeah, there's so many positive things. I think even if you become a doctor at the end of the day, sometimes the interview, you still got to be at some ability to be able to sell yourself, like present your case, and some people struggle with that more and more. But if anybody does want to do that, how could they do that? How could they get involved?
Well, most schools in our county, Santa Clara, have a program. If not, you should go talk to your principal.
Awesome. And then Silver Creek, you were helping out there a little bit. Were you on I guess, academy?
Well, a long time ago, Silver Creek was talking about putting together a legal studies academy, focusing the curriculum with a legal bent, and I was on that committee to advise them on that.
Nice, nice. And then former president of, was this the Bar Association?
Santa Clara County Bar Association.
Okay. And what are their real, is it just simply an association, networking thing, or is there actually duties, responsibilities that are carried out? Are there things that happen on case-by-case basis and then people have to make
it's an association
kids cheating on tests?
No, we don't go. This is an association of attorneys and judges, and we put on programming to educate our members, social events, and when the time comes, the bar on occasion offers an opinion as to certain issues, such as the attempt to recall Judge Persky. They came out against that.
Got it. So you guys, what exactly people don't know to recall Judge Persky? For anybody who doesn't know, what are we talking about here?
Well, there is a movement to recall Judge Persky to get him off the bench because they are not happy with his decision on the sentencing of Brock Turner, who was found guilty
Stanford
of
case.
Yes, known as the Stanford rape case.
Interesting. Kind of the political side of things. Now, California State, explain to people the difference. So we got the Supreme Court, and then does California have its own, I guess, essentially type of Supreme Court? Excuse my ignorance, but Judge Persky, what is he sitting on? What exactly is his?
We have three branches of government. We have the governor, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. At the top of the judiciary is the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Below the Supreme Court is the Court of Appeals, and then below that is the Superior Court. Judge Persky is on the Superior Court bench.
California Superior Court.
Right, the General Court of Jurisdiction.
And how many are typically appointed at a time?
It varies from county to county.
Okay, got it. And did that end up happening? Did Judge Persky get recalled?
They're attempting to put it on the ballot.
Okay. So would that be this June?
I'm not sure what timeline they're working on.
I'm guessing it, but interesting. And you guys made that initial vote, Mr. Shem, to actually get it on there?
Well, I wasn't part of the decision-making process.
Yeah.
Get me out of there. No, I'm retired from that.
But that was an example of the responsibilities.
Yes.
Got it. All right. So Yippee, what's going on? Harleen, thank you guys for joining us. Let's talk value. And I think the overall, I was trying to study what exactly would be on these guys' minds the most. And thankfully, it's one of the things that you specialize in the most, sir. And I'm sure you've represented both sides. Any great attorney can debate even the sides that they don't believe in, right? That's what the idea don't personally believe in, but civil litigation from landlords. What is some advice or some things that you've seen that is, the most common in these cases of civil litigation with landlords? I'm sure you've represented both sides for landlords and
primarily
tenants.
landlords.
Primarily you've represented landlords. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And what are some of probably the most common, I guess, conflicts one could say that you've come across during your times?
There is no common trend.
It's all over the place.
It's all over the place.
Case by case basis.
But, in San Francisco and in Oakland, you do have habitability issues, especially with the astronomical rents and people trying, and then the rent control and housing restrictions in the city in particular. There are very stringent rules that sometimes the landlords do not follow, and then there are penalties attached to that.
And then you go and you defend these guys.
You do.
Damn it, Mr. Shem. No, you have to defend everybody. You got to defend everybody.
Hey, everyone has a right to a defense.
That's right. So as far as, and for people who don't know, I guess the controversy is when we look at in the commercial world, I think we're at a cap of you can only increase rent 3% year to year. That is the maximum, or does this vary by county, city? Correct me if I'm wrong.
It depends on each city and county.
Okay, got it.
Primary city.
And some of this controversy that you're talking about is with landlords, as far as residential is concerned, unless it's affordable housing, there is no real cap, right?
There is habitability issues under California law. You're entitled to several minimum basics such as heat, a roof, electricity. There are others, and sometimes the landlords don't follow up with that.
Got it.
Oh, that's the allegation.
Yeah, with the maintenance, that's probably one of the biggest things. Interesting. But if you construct it in a lease in a way that it's the tenant's job to do something like that, or is that not possible?
Well, we have certain code laws in California that limit what a landlord can put in a contract.
I've dealt with that in the commercial situation where they signed that we would have to replace an AC unit that was up above, and AC units are very expensive. And it was clearly written in the lease. I was off playing college basketball, and later I'm like, Mom, Dad, you're telling him to fix the AC, but he clearly said that you're going to be in charge of repairing it. And even so, replacing it, somebody should have done a better job of reviewing that. But in that case, because it's written in the lease, does that necessarily mean that it's also the case? Because they may not have reviewed local, say this is in Sunnyvale, for example.
Well, there are differences between commercial and residential. With residential in particular, it cannot violate public policy.
Ooh, okay.
And that would be a case-by-case basis.
Got it. And so the habitat type thing. So, for example, for those who are in San Jose or Santa Clara County, we're off the top of their head the general, for even for landlords out there, are necessities that they should at least have to, I guess, have for their tenants. Be routinely maintaining things.
Well, again, the California law requires some minimum requirements. So you have to have running water, you got to have electricity, you got to have the heat, you have to have the roof. And I know, with older properties that becomes a challenge, but you have to do that.
Yep, and then they have property managers and stuff like that. So for anybody who's struggling to get the attention of someone, aside from calling you, if property managers delaying and not fixing something, what is one thing that you recommend they do? Aside from calling you if they can't afford you?
Document. Right. Everything in writing.
And I've been told, hey, Mark, everything in writing, so get them to respond in writing. But would you agree that video is more powerful than photos? Because obviously within the file, they have more specifically time, metadata. Would you recommend?
Well, now you're getting into the area of electronic discovery and electronics and how, you maintain that data. But, however you document it, document it. Not just word of mouth.
Trying to give value to these people. But yeah, document it as you go, exactly what's happening, be as specific as possible, which people sometimes fail to do, right?
Oh, yeah.
So runner's right. So this is a kind of a controversial topic. When we go into the world of affordable housing, right? I guess, was it Section 8 you can call it? Or did I just make that up? When we have
there are government programs that provide subsidies for low-income residents.
Got it. And I've been hearing about I don't know if you heard about that recently, that a lot of elderlies were also getting kicked out and having to find new homes during the holidays. I was asked if there was some type of agency that's usually required to move these movers or help them move to places. Have you heard of that at all?
Well, there are various programs out there, county and state and federal, that people can go to see if they qualify for assistance.
Okay, got it. And by assistance, you mean they get assistance for the move or these type of things?
Well, usually it's finding housing if they qualify, things like that.
Got it. I think by qualified, they can't make X amount more a year, right?
Generally speaking.
Got it. So what else have you generally done, Mark? I know aside from personal injury, there's a lot of construction.
Oh, a lot of construction going on in the Bay Area, as you know. Houses, people are flipping them. And then selling them, and sometimes there are issues that arise there.
Okay, and just for example, so this is obviously people, investors, real estate investors, when they're rehabbing things not being to code.
Not done to code, not done properly. Sometimes the investor runs out of money, and so they have to start cutting back on expenses, and that sometimes leads to problems. And then when you go out to sell the house, you've got your disclosures, as you are well aware, and so there's all sorts of problems that crop up, or a subcontractor is not paid, and they leave the house.
Jeez. That leads me to my next question is, for anybody out there whose mom or dad is thinking about buying some land or let alone a property to try to rehab themselves, what are some very basic things? And again, we must assume that not everyone knows everything who's watching this. Due diligence, you would call it, right? We won't name our client, but the bottom line is at the end of the day, he or she should have done a better job of due diligence, right? And thoroughly
check the title. Make
yes.
sure you know what the title has on it. Does it have easements? Does it have encroachments on the property?
Mm-hmm.
If you're buying a pre-built structure, inspect it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just
Lies pendis means litigation, by the way. If you're going by themselves to check it out, right, at the county, so restrictions, those type of things.
Right.
But some would argue, well, a title company is going to do that for me anyways. I heard someone do that. Not always.
Well, they'll do it, but sometimes they may miss something.
Right.
You never know.
Right.
So, but do check, and then don't just hire.
And if they do miss something, then they're going to say, "Hey, it wasn't my fault."
And then then you're down the path of possible litigation, and that's never fun.
Right. So, when Mark says check the title, he means whatever county, respective county that you're in. You can go down to the county clerk's office, right? Records.
Recorder, clerk's office.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm. And it sounds very basic, but this is important. Is obviously that property is going to come with an assessor's parcel number or APN, and that's one of the ways you would use to kind of track this land and search for it and be able to see. Oftentimes, they don't allow you to do that online or purchase copies. It's kind of a process, so you'd have to physically go in there. But trust me, if you're investing in something this huge, it's more than important that you take your time with due diligence. Mark, how do you feel about going into an agreement that has some type of time strain on it? I just thought of something. Would you agree and recommend that if you're ever going into a contract and somebody says, hey, you can get it if you do it in X and X amount of time, or the deal's off? Obviously, that's not something that you would favor, right? Because there's so many things that are out of your
well, if that's
control.
Part of the deal, unless it's against public policy.
Right.
It's part of okay.
It's okay, and unless
it's against public policy, you're speaking generalities and
sure
can't offer advice on that.
Well, I would recommend negotiate better and try to avoid from the time if it's something you want, right?
Right.
If not, you could always walk away. Hey, Kelly, got another attorney. Kelly is on. Thank you for joining us. What about let's talk about mortgage lending laws. These don't exactly have to do with you, Mark. They're more regulated, on a federal level. Just wanted to get your personal opinions that since 2008, we obviously had hopefully a lot more laws that kind of came into place as far as housing is concerned. What were your thoughts on generally on banks and how they acted towards housing and giving out predatory loans? Do you see this cycle repeating itself?
Well, I think I'll stay out of that.
Mark's views are his own. Mark's views are his own. I knew I was going to get this, but I had to try with that. So, what else, Mark? As far as defect claims, does that have to do exactly with contractors and goes back to construction?
Yeah, it goes back to construction contractors.
You got it. And easements. So if we can, how about this? I did see this come up, was HOA. This has kind of been, a topic for people. It's hard to see homes without HOA laws these days, right?
Well, all these multifamily residential complexes that are have been cropping up, they have HOAs, and you have to pay their assessments. And if you don't mind that, because it's generally cheaper than buying a single-family residence, it comes up with its upsides and downsides.
And some downsides?
Well, you could have an HOA board that's doing things that you don't agree with, and you can get into disputes with them. Mm-hmm. You can get assessments that you don't like paying, and you have to pay them.
Right. And essentially, what do you think the HOA in that kind of legal loophole was created, that with that homeowners association, are they completely within the law obviously would be relative to where it is at to be able to make their own rules as an HOA.
Well, and there isn't a loophole. It's created by the legislature. It's a special entity that has a special corporation, and it's an entity, and it has the power to make rules. It's governed by the rules and laws, so they can't just do anything they want to do.
Okay, got it. So if someone felt that something with the HOA was, out of line, what would they, or not legal?
Well, if you're really interested, you need to attend your meetings and voice your opinions on the subject.
100%.
They have to, the board has to present agendas before the meetings. So if that's an issue that you're interested in, you need to go and attend.
Yeah,
or get involved on the board.
I've given these same exact advice, and just as quick as they made these rules, this is just as quick as they can change them too. But people don't understand is they complain and complain, but then they won't show up to these meetings.
They don't vote. They don't do anything. Well, then you acquiesce.
Yes, and they don't understand how big their influence actually is if they just get a group of 3 to 4 neighbors who are also there to just show up. Because essentially, some of these HOA boards are, I'm not sure if it works that way, but are they voted upon, or they just, whoever's in the homeowners association?
No, you put your name in nomination. You remember in student government back in school?
Which is exactly why they will care, right? When 3 to 4 people show up and they see that, it can persuade people a lot more. So I've even gone down to City Hall sometimes. I said this with Sylvia recently, is people will go to Facebook and complain, and then I'll go to the actual City Hall hearing on it, and it's a ghost town. Right, and that makes it so easy for them to do whatever they want. But that's essentially what I wanted to talk about, people. And I feel like we nailed that question. But essentially, HOA do they have the power to evict you as well if you break certain rules?
They can't evict you. You're a part owner.
They can just keep tagging you.
They can take you to court to recover the amount you owe.
And if you're not aware of their rules, I mean, we've seen little stuff. I heard people that my satellite is on the wrong side, so my neighbor complains out to me, and now I'm getting, notices on my door to move satellite. Well,
when you moved in, you're usually given the bylaws, the CC&Rs, and any other rules that the board has promulgated. You need to look at them.
Right. Don't
just stick them in a folder and say, okay, I own a unit now. Yay.
Right, and then if the neighbors have to abide by this too, obviously they're going to be quick to rat you out if you're not abiding by them as well.
Well, most developments do retain a property manager, professional property manager, and they know they know the rules, and you need to work with them.
Right, completely agree. Talk about due diligence on land. What other should you be looking for if, say, aside from residential, we're looking at commercial for a second. Joe Schmoes finally wants to invest all his money to buy this land. Aside from checking with the title is clean, off the top of my head, from any personal value I could give you is, depending on what you want to do, you want to assess if there's running water, right? Or if there's water nearby, whether that's going to have to be, I'm sure that can be led yourself, but it's going to be much more expensive, right? Would you agree? Utilities, we want to look for that,
of course,
as well. And I've always been told Melrose School District, or Melrose, if it's something within Melrose, it's a far bigger tax that's placed on.
Well, you don't have much choice over that. It's
right. So what is that for people who have no idea? Does that mean you're just within a school district?
I'd have to look that up.
Okay, no, it's okay to not know, but
I can't know everything.
Yeah, no, that's totally all right. But it would, I believe, and quote me if I'm wrong, that's the beauty of this. I believe it's a school district tax that you want to look out for, but I'll follow up on that. That's the cool part of this. And don't worry, Mark, people have no problem correcting us and no problem to sending me messages of, actually, it's this and that and that. But so bankruptcy laws, again, have you ever dealt with anything to do with bankruptcy laws?
I'm not a bankruptcy specialist.
People just go right into that niche, right? There's so many.
Well, it has different rules.
Got it.
And I don't practice in bankruptcy.
But from a general level, how can one protect themselves? We've had Fred on the show. We've talked about trusts and the different legal shields of that. If Mark Shem was doing something,
I would refer it out to someone who knows how to do.
Good answer. Good answer. And so you would refer someone out to know the right entities of an LLC and an S corporation.
Well, if you're dealing with bankruptcy, I would talk to one of my colleagues who does bankruptcy.
Right. And to prevent yourself from that, there are several ways. Check out the episode with Fred. We talk about him and cover him tremendously. Statute of limitations. You, I, and Fred sat over a client. The first thing he asked you was, what are the statute of limitations on that? I know this sounds very boring and dumb, but again, we have to assume people don't know anything. From the most basic level, the statute of limitations is
your time period in which you can file a claim in the court to adjudicate your rights. And in other words, if you, for example, you get in a car accident, you can't wait forever to file a lawsuit. You have to do it with a car accident, for example, 2 years.
And depending on that, I was doing a little homework on articles within the table of contents for California. We talked about the Supreme Court, and are these articles just within penal code, right? Or
the statute of limitations in the code is in the Code of Civil Procedure.
Got it. And usually that can be a ballpark of from 1 year, what we just talked about, all the way to 10 years, right?
It varies.
It varies depending on subject, and that's something. Is that information readily available that people can?
Everything's available online, but you got to be careful what you read.
Right, that it's not outdated or things have not changed, and
consult a lawyer.
How do you stay up to date on that? I'm just curious.
We get the code books.
Okay. You guys get the code books,
and we have a continuing legal education requirement. So.
Interesting. Tell me about that. What?
Attorneys have to take so many units of in their practice area, and then on ethics, substance abuse, and elimination of bias.
And after a certain amount of time, you guys have to do that again to keep your license?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years. Interesting.
Don't you have one?
Yes. After 2 years, I'm assuming if I want to be a realtor and I'm a part of the National Association of Realtors and the California Association of Realtors, then there's certain things that, yes, I do have to do.
Same concept.
Yeah, after these 2 years to become a broker, there's going to be completely different, much tougher exam. And as far as thereafter, I'm not quite sure, but there should be. I'm totally okay with that, right? I welcome knowledge, and we should always be trying to stay up to date on things. I think that's essential. It shouldn't be looked at as a burden, right? So this is a tough question that probably drove you nuts, but almost a silly question. But as far as all of the penal codes, I wanted to was trying to dive and focus on, okay, well, which are specifically related to real estate, but that is so situational and so many volumes. They're all going to be tied in somehow at some point, right? That's very vague.
Well, that is a vague question, Roman.
Right.
I can't deal in vague.
Right. Yeah, he hated it. He was just about it. So foreclosure, again, that's another niche that they'd have to be.
Talk to a criminal defense lawyer.
Yeah, and they have a specific attorney here who deals with ADA, right? So don't get me started with that. Stay up to your ADA laws. They're always changing in California, especially if you're a business owner, right? There's certain people who specifically are targeting others that in older buildings, especially that aren't up to date, aren't code compliant on that, and there's a lot of backlash for that as well. Unlawful detainers and evictions. How can one know that they've been unlawfully evicted or feel that they have for no apparent reason been kicked out? That's kind of the controversy with the whole San Mateo thing, is that if a landlord comes to you overnight, jacks up your rent, doubles it, triples it, and essentially you have no choice but to leave. You've been there 15, 20 years. How do you know that it hasn't fell out of public policy?
Again, you have to look at the local municipal rules. Some have rent controls, some don't. You have to look at what they're doing. It's, speaking in generalities, it may or may not be. It's city by city, and also what the landlord is attempting to do. which may or may not violate a state law or even a local law.
Do you feel personally that there should be, the way we have a cap on commercial for 3%, that there should be in residential, or do you think a survival of the fittest?
Well,
lawyers hate giving personal opinions.
That's really outside the realm of my opinions.
True, the law is the law, and that is the purpose of it, is to get rid of opinions.
Talk to your lawmakers.
Right, and kind of, if you feel that's the case, you'd recommend talk to your lawmakers, your decision makers, city council.
Right, that's what they're there for.
Right. I think this is gonna be kind of the future of a lot of the talk in San Jose, right? As it becomes less and less, I guess, affordable. One would say is how we're going to control that, or we simply need to build more, right?
Where you build is going to be a big issue.
Right, especially in downtown San Jose. Well, fun. Now we get to go into the personal questions with Mark. Mark, I want to know, and yes, this has nothing to do with law, so you don't have to give me trial answers, which it's always, in this case, less is more, right? Stay silent, always say less than necessary. Mark's very good at that. I, on the other hand, blab all day. I'd probably get myself in trouble more, which is why I'm going to need Mark. But Mark, my first question is, what was a failure, or what you thought was an apparent failure at the time that really set you up later for success? If there's anything you can think of which, in the moment in time, you thought it was a failure, but looking back, it was meant to be. It was exactly what you needed to happen in your life. Can you think of any?
That sounds like an job interview here. No, I can't actually.
I'm perfect. There aren't any failures at all.
Econ
would be.
All failures always have a
silver lining.
Silver lining, yes. It depends what you take out of it.
Right. And can you think of one, if you would have continued on to econ, you would have never been sitting here, right?
If you didn't realize. Bored silly.
Huh?
I would have been bored silly.
You'd have been bored silly and unhappy. Here's another one. Okay, how about this, Mark? One you can actually answer. What's a book you've given most common as a gift?
I usually buy books for myself. I don't give books as a gift.
You've never given a book as a gift, Mark. Jesus. I'm going to get you a book now. Okay, how about this? Some obsessions you like to explore on the weekends outside of suing people.
I defend people.
I
like to travel. I go like Chicago or New York for the weekend.
Nice. Just specifically domestic? You got anywhere international?
I do like to go to London.
Okay. What is it about London?
Well, if you're bored of life, then if you find what was the quote from Winston Churchill? If you find London boring, then you're bored of life. I mean, it covers so many centuries of history, and then hordes of different cultures: Eastern European, Indian subcontinent.
Right. Huge.
I think Indian curry shops are more prevalent than fish and chip
shops. Yeah, no, the UK. Huge, especially in the Sikh community. There's a huge influx. I guess when they colonized India and they actually left, brought a lot of British soldiers. And we were talking about how they were the first of the police to create the bulletproof turban, and the Queen is guarded by 2 Sikh bodyguards as well. So huge community there. What are the lots of Chinese in London? We know you guys own San Francisco.
There's of course, with Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hong Kong, they didn't leave Hong Kong till like 98? 97. See, he's a history buff. That's his button I need to get more, is to the history. All right, let's see if he'll answer.
One more question.
Yes, one more question. Okay, you're a quote nerd by me. The tell-all, be-all of quotes. What's a quote that you feel that you live your life by, or think of often? We all have one, right? I'll share mine. Calvin Coolidge's Persistence.
Keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm and carry on. Yep, this too shall pass, right? All right, Mark, you get in a time machine and you go back, you see your 25, 30-year-old self. You're only allowed to You only have so much time. You got 30 seconds to a minute to tell your 30-year-old self something before you hop back in, and you're back at this chair. What advice would you give to yourself?
It all works out in the end.
I love it. I love it. And we're there. We're there to the last two, so you're not running
Oh, I told you one
anymore.
more question.
You're,
That's it.
You're not running anymore.
Gotta go.
But okay, one last one, Mark. One last one. If do you have any request? Oh, this is a good legal one you're gonna hate. What do you believe is true, even though you can't prove it? Oh, that's such a good legal one because you can't prove it. Would you consider yourself agnostic? Do you believe in God, or are you do not believe in God, or that would be an example of something that is not essentially there, but
Well, I'll go with that answer then.
karma? None of that. None of that. Okay.
I'll go with your answer.
Okay, great. Where can we find you, Mark? Any requests for how do we get a hold of you if anybody would like your services or would like?
We're at BortonPetrini.com. Our phone number is 408-535-0870.
Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you for putting up with my putting your feet to the fire. I will give you guys some more, throw in a link or some way that you can reach Mark. If there's anything else you want to ask him, I'll make sure I have you guys a direct contact to reach out to him. But thank you so much, Mark, for doing this. The holidays, last minute. This is your version of your mock trial. But when's the next Lynbrook? If we could ever check it out. There's a platform to check it out too, right? Well, when Lynbrook actually does the mock trial, where does it take place?
The county competition starts January 23rd in downtown Superior Court.
Nice.
It's open to the public.
Is it tournament style or something? How does it work?
It's trials inside the courtroom.
Okay, and Lynbrook, they either win or they lose. That's the way it works.
Well, there's 4 preliminary rounds and then a single eliminary.
There is a tournament style.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate you, sir. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Cheers, guys. Take care.